Welcome. This is the Senior Safety Advice Podcast, and we are so glad that you've made it to a calmer corner of your day. Here, we focus on real solutions, practical help, and the kind of encouragement we could all use a little more of. So let's get to it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another daily podcast from Senior Safety Advice. I'm really glad that you are back here today. I want to talk because it's January, right? And we've been talking all this month about National Bath Safety Month. So we're focusing on anything having to do with being safe in the bathroom. So today I wanted to talk about mats, non-slip mats specifically. I just visited a friend last night at a dinner event, and I walked into her half bath downstairs. And as I walked in, I stepped on a mat that was right in front of the sink, and it slipped a little. It slid a little on the floor. If I didn't have the sink there to hold on to, I think I would have done a little slide. So anyway, I went back out and I told her she really needed to get non-slip mats. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today, are these little simple mats that are supposed to keep people safe. It's such a small thing that can help to keep you from falling or tripping or injuring yourself, because it only takes a second for something to happen. So I know a lot of us have mats that we tend to keep for a very long time. And the trouble with that is that they get worn out. So if you notice that the mat that you have in your bathroom or your kitchen or anywhere throughout the house is slipping and sliding, then either you need to put grippers or something underneath that mat to keep it from slipping and sliding, or get a new mat. And I would recommend one that is as low pile as possible, because it's much easier to use a low pile, to maneuver over a low pile mat, especially if you have a walker and a cane, and it's less likely to trip over a low pile mat. And all that means is the thickness of the mat. All right, back when I was working as an occupational therapist, I'd walk into a hospital room or a rehab room, and I would hear the same story oftentimes over and over. My patient would tell me that they slipped in the bathroom, or they slipped on a wet floor, or worse, they tripped over the rug. They had the rug, but it was so thick that they tripped over it, or they tried to pick up their cane or their walker to go over it, and it caused them to lose their balance and fall. So many issues all around the concept of the rug or the mat. So here's the part that used to make my stomach drop. The family would say something like, but we had a non-slip mat. And yeah, there is a non-slip mat. But again, if it's too thick, it's not very safe. If it's old and it's worn out, then it's not very safe. So I've seen it so many times as an occupational therapist. A mat is not every mat is necessarily safe. So we're going to talk about that today, about what to look for and how to choose one that you can finally feel safe in. So first of all, the weight of the mat actually does matter. A good non-slip mat has some weight to it. It's a little hefty. If you can easily flick it across the floor with your foot, that's a problem. Heavier mats tend to stay put better, because even non-slip mats can still get moved around depending on how much of a push you give it. So next, look at the backing of the mat. If you want a rubber backing, or you do want a rubber backing, not a foam or a felt or a fabric, you want a rubber backing, because rubber tends to grip the floor. Now, some mats have just a rubber around the edges or around the corners, and others, the whole thing is rubber. I personally like the ones that are completely rubber on the bottom all the way. It makes it much easier, much less likely for it to slip and slide. Now, suction cups. There are some suction cups for the kinds of mats that you put inside a tub or a shower, and those can work well when they're working, but again, they tend to wear out and they're a bother to clean because you have to pull it up, clean the floor of the shower or the tub, and then suction them back in. And sometimes it gets folded, sometimes it's just not that easy. So I personally recommend the stickies that you can put at the bottom of any shower or bathtub. It's much easier to clean, much easier to maintain, nothing extra to take out. You do not use suction mats on the regular floor. That's not the kind of non-slip mat that you want, especially in a bathroom. In a bathroom, you want something that'll be absorbent, that'll absorb you if you step on it with wet feet or you spill some water on there, and you want it to be non-slip, and you want it to be as low pile, as thin as possible. So another issue is size. The smaller the mat, the easier it is to trip over it. It's much better to actually have a large mat. So if you have a double sink area, I would recommend one mat to go underneath both sinks, to go on that width. The same for in front of the shower or the bathtub. Of course, it depends on the amount of room you have in the bathroom, but the bigger the mat, the less edge there is there for you to trip over. You want a mat that fully covers the area where both feet come down. Now, I know some people tend to take a towel and throw it on the ground and use that as their mat. Do not do that. A towel is very slippery. It doesn't do anything for you as far as safety. So don't do that. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people tend to ignore maybe. I'm not sure. It's curling edges. If your mat curls at the corners, if it's doing that because it's old, then get rid of the mat. If it's doing that, if it's brand new, then when you lay down the mat, put some books or something heavy on it for a day or so to flatten it out. You do not want it to be curling because that is definitely a tripping hazard. That little lip can easily catch your toe or a walker, and you're down in a heartbeat. I've had clients swear up and down that they were very careful, and for the most part they were. But when you're tired, your feet tend to drag. You don't lift them as much as you would if you weren't tired. And as you get older, you may not notice it, but you're not lifting your feet, your leg, up as high as you used to. It's not a shuffle, but your feet are just not being raised as high, and that's why it's easier to trip over things. And also your balance. Balance depth changes as we get older, and you definitely want to try to keep the area as clear and clean as possible, and that includes your mat. So if your mat doesn't lay flat, let it go. All right, throw rugs are not bath mats, even if they say non-slip on the tag. I've watched throw rugs slide around like they were on ice, especially on tile or vinyl flooring, which a lot of bathroom floors are. They shift when your weight changes, and that's when a fall tends to happen. If you love throw rugs, then they must have a proper non-slip rug pad underneath. Not the thin mesh kind that bunches up, a solid rubber rug pad. Now, the problem with that is that it tends to raise the height of the overall mat or throw rug. So I personally don't recommend that. I think it's more important to keep it as low as possible, but this is your decision and it's your safety and your independence. So I personally think it's worth getting rid of a throw rug and getting a proper non-slip absorbent thin mat. Now let's talk about maintenance. Now soap scum definitely does build up on mats, under mats. Dust builds up under mats, believe it or not. And that buildup can also help to reduce grip besides wear and tear. So I recommend that lifting mats and cleaning underneath the mat, the floor area, at least once a week. Let everything dry completely before putting it back down. This simple habit can really prevent a floor. I know when I clean my bathroom floor, if I put my mats down too soon, when I come back to the bathroom, that mat is slipping and sliding all over the place. So I have to remember to not put it down right away, to just wait a few hours or an hour or whatever, and then put it down, and then it sticks properly. So don't put your mat over a wet floor. I learned that the hard way. If the mat smells musty or stays wet all the time, then it's not safe. That's why I really like the new absorbent mats. Moisture weakens grip, and it also grows bacteria on that mat. So of course you're going to be washing that mat often or every so often, but still that also helps to weaken the grip of the mat on the floor. And there are textured floor strips and adhesive strips that can also work well they might work well under a mat, but they work really well in tubs and showers. But they need to be installed correctly. Read the instructions thoroughly before you put them down. Okay, now here's something that I always remind families about. Non-slip mats are not a magic fix. Just because you have non-slip mats in the bathroom and grab bars and a raised toilet seat and proper lighting, and I'm trying to think of anything else. If the bathroom is as optimized as possible for safety, it doesn't mean that it's a guarantee that you're not going to fall, because your balance is your balance. Nothing can help your balance unless something is holding you up. So if your balance is poor, mats aren't going to be just enough. Grab bars aren't going to be just enough. Lighting isn't going to be just enough. Your footwear, of course, you always want to wear footwear that has a proper backing. You don't want to wear the footwear that's open in the back. Those are so easy to trip over. So if your balance has changed recently, or if you're trying a balance test and you're not passing it, get a hold of your physician, ask for a prescription for physical therapy, and start working on some balance exercises so you can improve that balance, and that will also help to decrease the chance of you falling. Planning is so important. Acknowledging what your issues are and then planning for those issues is the thing that will help to keep you safe and independent, along with adding all the proper tools around your home, like safety mats. All right, so I've seen families scramble a lot after an injury, and you definitely don't want to be in that position. All right, so there are so many places that you can purchase these mats. You can on Amazon. I like the ones on Amazon because you can look at the reviews. You can look at some videos that people put out, and they give you all the descriptions. But you can also, of course, go to the store and look for some. The trouble these days is that when you go to a store, there's hardly anything there, it seems, because so many people are shopping online. The stores, why should they bother carrying the inventory? They just put it online. I know every time I go to the store, they just tell me, oh, you can order that online. I don't know why I got in the car and came. But anyway, if you have any questions, please go to seniorsafetyadvice.com and fill out the contact form and ask us any questions you have about safety issues in your bathroom, the safety mats, the non-slip mats, anything at all. We're here to help you. We're here to help you keep safe and independent. All right, my friend, that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you again so much for being here with me. If this episode brought a little calm to your day, share it with someone that you care about. Maybe someone who could use a reminder about making their bathroom safer. You'll find more reflections and resources for seniors and caregivers at seniorsafetyadvice.com. And if you're looking for an aging-in-place professional or product or service, check out aginginplacedirectory.com. I'm working very hard to get that website filled up as much as possible. All right, come back tomorrow for another daily moment of calm guidance and encouragement right here on the Senior Safety Advice Podcast. And hey, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel or the podcast yet, go ahead and do that right now. That really helps us reach more people who could use this kind of support and information. All right, until next time, take care of yourself and the ones that you love.
This podcast is part of our mission to help older adults live safely and independently. If you'd like to take the next step, visit aginginplacedirectory.com, where you'll find specialists, helpful resources, and inspiration to make every home your place to thrive.